All right, back on the Young Turks, we got an insane third hour for you. But first, we're going to have a little bit of fun with the movies, as we like to do from time to time. Of course, Matt Atchity from Rotten Tomatoes joins us. Matt, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. It's great to see you, as always. All right, so you guys are releasing the 100 worst reviewed movies of the last 10 years?
Of the last 10 years, yes.
Okay, that's awesome.
There are some awesomely bad movies out there.
How many of the 100 have you seen, you think?
I've probably seen a good 20 or 30.
Okay, and were they as bad as you think? As the critics say?
Some of them definitely, yes. I can say that I'm actually surprised that anyone at all gave a positive review to Battlefield Earth.
Okay, so
for
now,
instance.
right? So let's understand this, right? These are, if they have a score of a 5 out of 100, it doesn't mean that the combined average of all of the reviewers are a 5 out of 100. It means only 5 out of 100 reviewers like the movie.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. The tomato meter is a percentage of the amount of critics that like the movie.
All right. So of the 100 most disastrous movies of the last decade, how many of them scored a donut? Not a single reviewer liked it.
They're the first 20 or so are zeros.
Wow, that's nicely done.
Yeah.
How many reviewers are there in Rotten Tomatoes?
Well, it depends on the movie, but for any particular movie, there may be as many as 100 people reviewing a movie. You know, a recent big release, like Dark Knight last year, we had upwards of 200 reviews. Mm-hmm. So it kind of depends on how many people are rating or reviewing that particular film. So
a lot of reviewers will be like, oh, that's just such weak sauce, I'm not even interested
well,
in
sometimes that, or sometimes they just, their schedules don't allow them to, or somebody like, the LA Times has 2 or 3 reviewers, so Kenny Turan isn't getting out to every single film. Right. There's a few other people that are picking up some of them.
So what's the common theme that we see? What are the movies to avoid?
The movies to avoid, some of the really cheapo comedies on the list. That was the surprising thing, is that there are 30-something comedies. There are more comedies than any other genre.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting, because I would have thought maybe horror would have done better or worse, depending on how you put it.
Yes and no. I think that it's rare for a horror movie to get as low as we saw some of the movies that are on the list. The bar is set pretty low. A movie's got to be around 7%. And a horror movie typically isn't that bad. What typically happens with a horror movie is that you'll see that the horror fans and a certain class of online critics sometimes will enjoy them, and most of the rest of the critics don't. So typically we're seeing anywhere from 20 to 30 to 40% for a horror movie. Now that's not to say that you can't see something higher, like Drag Me to Hell this year was up in the high 90s. But for the most part, they at least get the killing right, they at least get the makeup right. And my personal theory is that on a movie like a horror movie, you don't see a lot of horror movies, you don't see a ton of action movies or a ton of sci-fi movies, because for the most part, my feeling is that those movies, when people are spending money, somebody's kind of minding the store. Whereas a cheapo comedy you can do really cheap. Or the other problem with comedy is that maybe those 20 people making the movie are the only ones who think it's funny.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the problem with comedy overall is that if it doesn't work, it sucks.
Yeah.
Like if it works, it could be brilliant.
Right.
It could be somewhere in the middle. But man, if you're not funny and you make a whole movie of you not being funny, it's going to be disastrous.
Right, and then it just becomes tedious, right? Like if your jokes aren't hitting and you're stuck there for 2 hours, then that's unforgivable. It's not like a comedy club where you can walk out.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. So, all right, I'm sure a lot of people are in suspense. By the way, before we move to what was number one, okay? As I looked at the whole list, and I was proud to have reported that I've only watched one of them.
Oh, really?
Okay?
Which one?
Gigli. And I watched that one because I knew it was going to be bad, historically bad. That's why I watched it.
The sad thing about that one is Martin Brest hasn't directed a movie since that film. And he directed Midnight Run. That movie's hilarious.
Oh.
Right? Martin Brest has not worked since then. Not on a film. Nobody will give him a movie now.
Well, I would say good riddance. Except you're right. Midnight Run was excellent. And, I watched Gigli, and it was hyped to be like the worst movie ever in recorded history. And it wasn't. It was bad. It was bad, but it wasn't, hideous.
It's not offensively bad.
Right. Yeah, so So the reason I tell you that is because it seems like if you have some common sense, you could actually avoid the really bad movies because I was going to say 99 out of 100 of these, but actually 100 out of 100 because I went to Julie knowing it was bad, seem a little retarded. So as I look down the list, I'm like dumb movie, dumb movie, dumb movie, dumb movie. I didn't see one where I thought, well, that might work, and it didn't.
Right.
Except maybe 88 Minutes.
Yeah, that's John Avnet directing. I saw that, and then he followed that up with, he followed that up with the one with Pacino and De Niro, which was Righteous Kill, which was also awful.
So is director a good sign for figuring out who's going to screw up the movie if it's a terrible movie?
Only for certain directors. You can't go wrong avoiding an Uwe Boll film, right? I mean, he makes those terrible schlock video game adaptations like In the Name of the King, the Jason Statham movie, where they cast Ray Liotta as a wizard. Like that's got to be the worst casting ever, right? And Burt Reynolds as a medieval king. His movies are almost across the board just unwatchable. The guys that do the epic movie and Meet the Spartans and Date movie, they've got 4 movies on the list. So you can kind of guarantee that maybe don't go see one of those.
One last thing on this before we get to the winner, okay, is it seems that most of the movies that did really poorly are aimed at a younger audience. Now, is that because they're generally dumber to appeal to a younger audience? And I don't mean younger people are dumber. I just mean that there's sillier humor that appeals to younger demographics. Or is it because the reviewers are older?
I think it's a couple things. I think that in some of those kids' movies, especially those family holiday comedy type films, I think that the producers and the writers just figure that the bar is so low that they don't have to appeal to anyone intelligent. Like, oh, the kids will like this. Oh, they'll think that's funny. Fart jokes and poop jokes and people getting slapped around. Like, that's all they want to see, right? And it's almost as if they're writing cartoons, and then those movies turn out badly anyway. So, and maybe the kids will see them, maybe not. I mean, you don't have to pander to kids. Pixar shows that, right? Like
absolutely.
You can do great kids movies.
No, those guys are lazy, okay, and they don't know what they're doing. Because, look, I'm as infantile as anyone. Today, we had this long 2-hour accounting meeting. I wanted to drill a hole through my head, okay? And I'm driving back to the office, and I'm driving through Koreatown, and I see a restaurant that says Young Dong Restaurant. And I was like, oh, come on, no, you didn't name the restaurant Young Dong, okay? And I laughed for like 5 minutes straight, okay? So I don't mind it, but it's just one fart joke after another. The problem isn't the fart joke. The problem is it isn't funny.
Right.
They're not even trying.
And 2 hours of that can be too much. I mean, the Farrelly brothers can get away with that in some of their movies.
Right.
Not all the time, but sometimes they can. But sometimes it gets to be too much, and you're just enough already. Or at least the critics are.
By the way, doesn't anyone in that family running that Korean restaurant have a friend who speaks, decent English, who says, Young Dong? Let's go something else. Let's go Young Kim. Let's go, something Park Dong. I don't know. Well, just leave Dong out of it. But anyway, all right. Now to the final reveal, the worst movie of the last 10 years.
The worst movie, what we did is we looked at the tomato meter scores, and it's all 7s through 0s. Descending, and then in case of a tie, because there's a bunch of zeros, we go with the one that has the most reviews. So the movie at 0 with 117 reviews is Ballistic, X versus Sever. It's Lucy Liu and Antonio Banderas. It's like a hitman movie, and it's just terrible. It's terrible.
So 117 reviewers review the movie,
and all say it's bad.
None of them liked it.
None of them.
They all went ballistic over how bad it was. Oh, come on, please. Okay. Speaking of bad comedy, right? That's a good note to end on. All right, Matt Atchity from Rotten Tomatoes. We really appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So now you know what to avoid. Actually, go on RottenTomatoes.com and you'll know what to avoid. It gets released tonight. All right. We'll be right back, Young Turks.